Hello, this is Paul Billington bringing you this week's Bible in the News. According to the U.K.'s Guardian newspaper, the Iranian regime has accused the CIA, Saudi Arabia and Israel of starting what they say are riots in the country, which of course is the Biblical Persia. American efforts to win UN Security Council backing for a tough line against the Iranian leadership in the wake of this week's protests came unstuck after Russia accused Washington of seeking to undermine Iranian sovereignty by convening an emergency UN session on Friday. The paper says last month the US was left isolated at the UN when it was left with virtually no support for its call for Jerusalem to be recognized as the capital of Israel. 21 people have died and hundreds have been arrested since 28th December as protests over economic woes turned against the Iranian leaders, with attacks on government buildings and police stations. The Jerusalem Post reported that the Supreme National Security Council Secretary, Ali Shamkhani, blamed the unrest specifically on the US, Britain and Saudi Arabia. As it enters its 40th year, the Islamic Revolution is running out of fuel and the Iranian regime is living on borrowed time, the paper said. As we consider the news reports on the situation, it becomes clear that the division has a Russian-backed Iran, Persia, confronting the US, Saudi Arabia, Britain and Israel, which is what we would expect in the light of Ezekiel's prophecy in his 38th chapter. The word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. Persia, Ethiopia and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Verses 1, 2 and 5. So the headline in the Guardian newspaper, Friday, January the 18th, is no surprise to us. Russia accuses US of misusing UN to meddle in Iranian affairs. So the unrest in Iran is part of a bigger picture as all nations combine against Jerusalem. Today we see the long-expected crisis over Israel's claim to the biblical lands and to the city of Jerusalem coming to a head. The issue was brought into focus as US President Donald Trump declared Jerusalem to be the capital of Israel and setting off an international outcry against his decision. An emergency session of the United Nations General Assembly was called for December the 21st, which voted his move to be null and void. But the decision by the UN had no legitimacy and was not binding, so as such it was itself null and void. The United States could therefore ignore it and, if it chooses, proceed with plans to locate its embassy in Jerusalem. So what we are seeing is that this action of President Trump is drawing the nations together against Jerusalem and against Israel, and this will include Iran. The world may well have demonstrated hostility to both the US and Israel, but this is unlikely to have any effect upon Trump's policy. As far as the UN is concerned, Trump could simply turn off the lights. As one writer in the Jerusalem Post put it, bet on it. There will be a reckoning. Trump does not appreciate being stabbed in the back, not for himself, not for the United States, and not for Israel. We will see what happens in due course, but for now at least the USA can be counted on to fulfill the role of Israel's protector. Trump is already moving to cut funding to the Palestinians and to sections of the UN. This is, of course, the work of an unseen hand controlling the affairs connected with Israel and the land. This protection will allow divine instruction of Judah to take place as required by prophecy. For example, Jeremiah chapter 3 verse 15. I will give you pastors according to my heart, which shall feed you with knowledge and understanding. Also Isaiah chapter 40 verses 9 to 11. O Zion, that bringest good tidings, get thee up into a high mountain. O Jerusalem, that bringest good tidings, lift up thy voice with strength, lift it up, be not afraid. Say unto the cities of Judah, Behold your God. Behold, the Lord God will come with strong hand, and his arm shall rule for him. Behold, his reward is with him, and his work before him. He shall feed his flock like a shepherd. Also Malachi, chapter 4, verses 4 to 6. Remember ye the law of Moses my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb for all Israel, with the statutes and judgments. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord, and he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. This will strengthen Zionism among many, not everyone, so that the controversy of Zion, Isaiah 34 verse 8, becomes a heated issue between Christendom and the religious Zionists in the land. It is to be expected that as Britain becomes separated from Europe, she will eventually come to adopt the position of America. Today we see Russia flexing its military muscles as she prepares to dominate Europe. See the current Bible magazine, pages 13 and 14 especially. And that cannot now be far away. It was Brother Graham Pierce in Milestones 1981 who wrote of the curtain rising on a new scene. He said, "When East and West Europe are bound together, the curtain will rise on a new scene. The building of the great image of Nebuchadnezzar will be in progress. The fourth beast of Daniel will be recreated, with its little horn of the papacy speaking great things and preparing to challenge Christ and the saints. America will be separated. Britain will be isolated on the edge of a hostile continent. Events may move slowly or quickly, we do not know, but we shall have no excuse that the Master's coming has caught us as a thief in the night." Today we see America being separated, for the whole world is against her because of her support for Israel. The indication of prophecy is that this will continue, although it will not deter the Russian Gog from his determination to come against the mountains of Israel. Join us again next week on www.bibleinthenews.com.